All right, here we are, hour number 3 on day 2 of the NFL Draft. Chris Brown, Matty Glad with you, and pleased to welcome in our good friend Greg Cosell, senior producer from NFL Films, who has broken down some of the receiver prospects way back at the NFL Combine with us. But it's time to revisit some of these prospects now that the Bills are on the clock for all intents and purposes for tonight's day 2 of the draft, or night 2 of the draft, and there is plenty of receiver talent still on the board. Greg, how are you? You got enough sleep, or just stay up to the end of this thing?
I did not, Chris. So if I fall asleep during this segment, you'll understand. Well, you use the term "on the clock." I don't know what that means with the Bills these days.
Right. Yeah, they moved a couple of times last night, as you well know, and now they hold the first pick here. At 33. They also hold pick 60 down near the bottom of round 2. 3 picks in total here on night 2 of the draft. And there was some trepidation, Greg, about moving back to this area because a lot of these teams at the top of round 2 are deemed to have receiver needs. There is expected to be a run on receivers here early in the round. But let's begin with some of the guys that are still on the board that the Bills will have a look at least if they stay put here at 33. And I know we've talked about A.D. Mitchell before. Sure. I know there are some character things that have popped up around the league that's been reported on him. Maybe that's why he's still on the board. But talent-wise, he's kind of the total package.
He is, and I did speak with a coach who did mention to me that there were some significant character concerns. Every team sees those kinds of things differently. But the same coach also told me that he was his number 3 receiver on the board ahead of Adonai. So you're dealing with a guy that is really gifted. I felt, again, just watching tape, which is what I do, and a lot of these guys I see earlier in the process before I have any conversations with coaches. And I thought when you looked at Mitchell's tape, I thought that he's the kind of receiver that could be a top 10 receiver in the league within a couple of years. I mean, 6'2", 205, ran a 4.34, really strong athletic testing measurables, caught balls in the middle of the field, has vertical ability. There really isn't a trait that he does not have as a receiver.
And then there's also Keon Coleman, who's sticking out of Florida State. He had 11 receiving touchdowns last season. A tall wide receiver as well, 6'4", 215. Why might he be a good fit for the Bills at the top of the second round?
Yeah, Matty, I thought he was an interesting guy. I kept going back and forth on him. I think there's a lot to unlock with Coleman. I don't think he's sudden or twitchy. He's not that kind of guy. He's more measured and methodical in his movement. He's not truly a vertical guy, but he's big. He can go up and get the football. He can make those kinds of crowded environment catches that you have to be able to make in the NFL, and that's probably the strength of his game. I wouldn't say that he's stiff by any means, but he's not a loose, fluid guy. I just think there's something there that can be developed. But I kept going back and forth on him. I'm not surprised he was not taken in the first round. I know a lot of people thought he might be. It did not surprise me because I imagine I wouldn't be the only one watching his tape coming away with kind of the thoughts that, hey, there's something there, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah. A guy that intrigues me is Jalen Polk. Sturdy build, fantastic catch radius. I really like the way he widens on those sideline routes and gets separation from the defender. There seems to be a physicality to his game that's appealing, Greg, and I like the fact that he plays big in big games. I mean, the sweep of Oregon, he had 11 for 175 and 2 touchdowns in the season sweep of Oregon, and then he had 5 for 122 and a touchdown in the semifinal against Texas.
Yeah, I mean, my sense watching Polk is that you're dealing with a guy that the foundation is what you just said, Brownie. This guy's got great hands. He's got outstanding ability to contort his body and make tough contested catches away from his frame. It's evident watching his tape that he plays with a physical edge. He can function through contact. He's just not, there's not a lot of juice to him. That's the only thing. But you know that going in. You're not drafting him to be a big-time vertical dimension. He's not a sudden explosive mover. He's a little bit one speed. He doesn't really have an extra gear. He's very physical, and he catches everything. He has really, really good hands. The player he kind of reminded me of, and this player, you'll know him, he used to be in your division. He had his best year this year with another team, but he kind of reminded me of how Jacoby Myers developed as an NFL receiver. Big, physical, catches everything, tough kid. Polk might be a little better than that, but he's that style of receiver.
Okay.
But he kind of grew on me. I had to keep watching him, Brownie, and he kind of grew on me. I kind of like Jalen Polk.
Yeah, he just seems to make plays. I mean, he's not elite physical traits, but he makes plays, and he's big enough and tough enough. I don't know.
He catches the football, and he makes tough catches.
Yeah.
Well, what about another Washington wide receiver? There's Jalen McMillan, who is still available as well. He had 5 touchdowns last season and can create some space. He's got some build-up speed as well. What separates him from some of the other wide receivers that are still available?
Yeah, it's funny, Maddie, because last summer, I do this every summer. I watch guys who are likely to be in the draft the next year, just so I can get kind of a feel for certain guys. I try to get through maybe 50 or 70 guys. And I watched McMillan last summer, summer of 23 with his 22 tape. And, of course, I watched Rome Odunze as well. And off his 2022 season, I came away watching McMillan's tape thinking, this guy's really, really good. And then he got hurt a lot this year, and so he didn't play as much. He's got really good length to him. He's 6'1". He's very smooth and fluid. Probably not explosive in a strict sense, but he's got deceptive play speed. He's an intermediate guy. There is a vertical dimension to him as well, although you wouldn't call him a burner. So I really like Jalen McMillan. I think he's a really intriguing guy. He was a big-time recruit when he went to UW. Watching him move, there's a certain smoothness to him that's deceptive. I mean, and because he's 6'1", he has stride length as well. And I think he has really good route control. I think he knows how to attack and break down corners or safeties and separate at the top of his route stem. He is, to me, was one of the most intriguing wide receivers I watched in this draft class.
Who do you like, Polk or McMillan better?
They're totally different.
They are.
Yeah.
How about fit for the Bills? Who do you think's a better fit for the Bills, Polk or McMillan? And what they need?
I would. Some could disagree. I would probably say McMillan.
Okay.
But
because his
like
game's
Polk,
a little more diversified.
I think you can do more with McMillan in the context of your offense.
Right. Troy Franklin is a guy that does have juice, slight framed, which always kind of makes you wonder a little bit. Can he get through a 17-game season? But this guy has unquestionable juice and had a monster season for Oregon.
Yeah, no, this guy at this moment in time is a vertical dimension. So the question is, can he be more than that as he develops? And that's then once you get to do your due diligence more than I can do, you haven't in your mind you have an answer to that question. But right now you're dealing with a guy that has excellent length, run. He's got stride length. He's got vertical ability. That's his profile. As I said, can he be more than that? He was predominantly a static receiver in the Oregon offense. So the question is he a boundary X? Can he win against press coverage at 76, 180 pounds? Does he have to be a movement Z so you can get him free access off the ball to generate some speed, get him into that stride length? Because right now, as I said, he's a little bit right now of a one-trick pony. So you have to decide, can he be more than that?
And let's finish off with Tez Walker, who's 6'1", 193, ran a 4.36. He's a true separator. And on touchdowns, he had a career average of 30.7 yards when he separated with touchdowns, which is that's pretty big. What do you like about him?
Yeah, I think ultimately with him, he's another guy that at this moment in time is a vertical guy. His game is built on speed and explosiveness. there's no question he's a vertical dimension. He can run by, he can get on top of corners, he can take the top off the defense. He plays fast right off the line of scrimmage. He can accelerate to high-end speed almost instantly, and of course that challenges and puts tremendous pressure on corners. He's smooth, he's fluid. There's a gliding feel to him, but yet he is sudden because he can run. He's not really an accomplished receiver at this point. And that, again, in some ways, he's like Franklin, even though he weighs 20 pounds more. They're very similar at this moment. They're both speed guys. Well, again, you have to decide, can he become more than that? But he does weigh more than 190. He's not a little guy. So, he to me would probably be a little more interesting than Franklin. But again, you'd have to know the players. I don't know the kids, but they're kind of similar right now.
Yeah, who would you say stands a better chance of having a higher ceiling between those two? Because you're kind of describing them as relatively one-dimensional now, but down the line, who do you think has a higher ceiling to reach here and offers greater potential?
Wow. I would probably say Walker, but I'm not saying that, Brownie, with, a really strong conviction like, yeah, it's Walker for sure. But I'd probably say that since you asked me the question.
Yeah, because that's the rub. I mean, that's what makes the draft so interesting, because you have some people that are going to pound the table and say Tez Walker will be amazing.
Yeah, it's all projection. I mean, that's the thing. It's all prospect projection. Nobody's a finished product. As you get further down in the draft, now we're starting round 2 tonight, you're getting guys that obviously, for the most part, are not on people's draft boards as first-round picks. So now you're starting to get into players that have some flaws or weaknesses, whatever you want to call them, and you have to figure out, can those be fixed? Can those be improved upon? Is that just the way the guy is and you work around it? I mean, that's what you start to get to as you get further into the draft. You know that, guys. I mean, that's, everybody thinks when you draft guys that, oh, man, now we got it. Well, none of these guys are finished products, and certainly not as you get further down in the draft.
Yeah.
Greg, what surprised you most about night 1 of the draft?
The same thing that surprised everybody, Maddie. I mean, Michael Penix. That really was, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say they're right or wrong, but the reason it was strange, I like Michael Penix, and again, I don't get caught up with the idea, well, they could have gotten him later, or he's not worth the 8th pick. I don't do that stuff. The bigger question is, Kirk Cousins just signed a 4-year, $160 million deal, and I did speak to someone last night, because I don't follow the cap stuff really closely, that they can't do anything with Kirk Cousins for at least 2 years.
Right.
So you're drafting a 24-year-old quarterback who I really like, by the way, and I think he fits that offense exceptionally well, because it's going to essentially be the Rams offense. And I think he fits that really well, but you can't get rid of Cousins even after this year. So if you you have decided Penix is your guy. They didn't do that on a whim. They knew they were taking Michael Penix 2 weeks ago. So when you take Michael Penix, I would think you believe by year 3 for sure he's going to be your starter. So So like I said, I mean, everybody has these same questions, but that was the pick I think that was most surprising. But the other thing, Maddie, was the first 14 picks were offensive players.
Yeah, and 23 total in round 1.
Which is the most ever, I believe.
Yes, it is. It crushed the record of 19, which had been done 3 previous times, last in 2009. Be interesting to see if it kind of evens out now here in round 2, because the receiver class is still very deep, as you know. But I think some of these other defensive positions will come into greater focus.
And Brownie, here's the other question. 6 quarterbacks were taken in the top 12. History tells us that not all 6 are going to be all pros, right? That's not the way it works.
Yeah, look at the 83 class.
It's almost impossible to know which ones won't be, but all 6 are not going to be superstars. We know that from history.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, Greg, listen, thanks for the time. We'll catch up with you for our live stream, I believe, tonight, right? We'll catch up with you this evening after what we hope is pick 33. We hope it's a little earlier evening than last night.
Yeah, I'm hoping because pick 33 it will be early in the evening because I might need to get to bed a little early tonight, Brownie. So let's hope it's pick 33.
Fair enough. Thanks for joining us, Greg. Appreciate it. We'll catch up with you later.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.